How are you doing?
Right. You're talking about the bombing with Churchill.
Yes.
Yeah, but I don't know if you know about the bombing of Hanoi.
Well, only a little, in the sense that I know a vague understanding of the Vietnam War.
Right. Oh, but interesting enough, there's because I was trying to search for something else, and I came across this website which talks about the there's a term for it where they declassify the documents.
Okay.
And I was trying to look up something else, but then I ended up sitting for like a couple of hours reading through this long these different descriptions of what the British have been doing in other countries. And I skipped the ones about Africa because there's a whole load of them, all the evil they've done in Africa. But the interesting one was what they did in Vietnam, and it was explaining in great detail the documents which were released relating to the Harold Wilson and it was Wilson, isn't it? And the president, I think it
Lyndon Johnson, President of the United States.
Yeah.
Lyndon Johnson at the time.
And I think,
unless Nixon afterwards.
Yeah, Nixon came in like during.
He came in January 1969. He became president, replaced Johnson.
Yeah, and so I think Johnson had to deal with what's that other one? I forgot what it's called.
You think Cambodia?
No, Korea. I think.
Korea. No, Korea will be back in Eisenhower's day.
All right. Yeah. So what it is, because this site is it's actually have you got internet?
Yeah, not right now, like.
All right. Okay. Right. Yeah.
I'll try and remember.
Yeah. No, because what it is, or even on this, I can put it in the description.
Yeah.
Essentially, it gives you details of the communications between the Americans and the British. And one of the big ones that kind of like made me eventually decide that I'm going to do a little video about it, is where you know how they were in South Vietnam?
Yes.
Well, it was all Vietnam. Well, it wasn't really a South Vietnam, but there was sort of. And so the Americans wanted to bomb. It's Hanoi, isn't it? It's the capital of the North.
Hanoi's the capital of North Vietnam.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and so they were talking with the British, and they said, "Oh, we want to bomb Hanoi," and so the British this was like a secret communication. So at the time, it wasn't public. And when you look at the reply, it's similar to the British reply to the Americans that, yes, we know it's illegal under the such and such rule, but we'll back you anyway.
Right.
So they're even admitting that what the Americans are doing is illegal.
Right.
And saying that they're going to back them.
Right.
And then, of course, they went and bombed Hanoi, and lots of people died.
Yes.
And the reason why I was going to do the video is because what I'm going to write is say that they should have been arrested for that, shouldn't they?
Well, you can argue this because, after all, there's an arrest warrant out for Vladimir Putin for allegedly taking children from Ukraine to Russia. I say allegedly because the whole thing's very murky. But there's no arrest warrant out for Zelensky or Biden or Blair or any of these guys. Arrest warrants are always out for the other side, right?
Yeah.
But the key thing about Britain and Vietnam and the United States is that we had in the days of Harold Wilson, Labour had a very strong left wing.
Yeah.
The Americans were constantly trying to pressurize Wilson to put in British soldiers into South Vietnam.
Yeah.
To show it's not just an American operation. Same with the Gulf War. And Wilson said, no, I can't, because if I do, the left will go mental. It'll split the Labour Party
and the unions as well.
And that mostly the left of the Labour Party, but it may include many unions as well.
Yeah.
But that was the reason why we never saw British troops in an official way in Vietnam. I have no idea whether British special forces went to Vietnam.
Oh, yeah, that's part of the revelation. So some SAS guys went in.
Okay, hardly surprising, right?
Yeah.
Because for better or for worse, I think we've been locked with the United States since World War II.
Yeah.
I mean, my view is ever since the Britain threw away its empire by going to war against Germany or prolonging the war in 1916 when a peace could have been reached.
Yeah.
And then going to war in 1939, I think totally against British interests. the empire was finished, and that meant Britain would be a lapdog of the new power, the United States, and it need not have happened. But there we are. That's the event, and so Britain. The British government has to do things secretly. Sometimes it does things brazenly. I mean, we know Blair when they were George Bush before the Gulf War. So not Blair was. That was when it came to the invasion of Iraq.
Yeah.
I should say after 9/11.
Well, you talking about the Kuwait one?
Well, the first thing was Kuwait, 1990-91.
Yeah.
Then after that, we have the Twin Towers. Well, we have these sanctions against Iraq, which kill hundreds of thousands of children. And Madeleine Albright says that's okay, that's a price worth paying. And then we have the September 11th attack, which I believe was very much involved. Yet they were true radical Muslims, but I think the Israeli secret services were involved in that. There's reason to believe that too, because of the kind of stuff, the chemical that was used, Thermite, and the dancing Israelis, as they called them, on the day of the attack. They were arrested and then sent back to Israel.
What do you mean by chemical?
Oh, there's a substance, highly corrosive substance called Thermite. It's not just generally available.
Right.
It's produced by in very specialised ways. So only certain nations produce it. It was found in the rubble of the Twin Towers.
Yeah.
It would not come from the aircraft. It could not be in the aircraft. It would not be from a bunch of Arab terrorists. It had to come from some sophisticated military outfits.
So you're talking about when the bottom blew out, you mean?
Yeah, well that's one thing. That's another thing. No, this was just a particular substance.
Yeah.
The fact that the firemen heard explosions after the planes hit the towers.
Yeah.
That's a matter of record, But these dancing Israelis were about 6 Jews who were seen by a woman from her balcony, from her flat, who were kind of like whooping it up as the towers were in flames. And the police, like New York police, came out, arrested them.
Right.
They were found all to work for this particular company, an Israeli import-export company of some sort. And it was when those premises were entered, they were full of computers, far more computers than you would need for a kind of basic, import-export company. These Israelis were questioned for a while, and then they were deported, right? They were deported. Several of them were found to be linked strongly with Mossad, the Israeli Assassination Bureau.
Yeah, the guys who couldn't stop the... What's his name?
And then when this company suddenly just disappeared, this one that had all these computers in, nothing was found after a while. So it's hard to understand why there'd be a bunch of Israelis jumping up and down when they look at the Twin Towers. You would say if one said they'd had drinks and they were just being crazy, well, why were they connected with Mossad, and why did this company disappear? It's all very murky. Now, if you think, well, the Americans wouldn't let that kind of conspiracy go kind of unnoticed and everybody could hush it up. Well, in fact, they hushed up the historically established Israeli attack on the USS Liberty.
Oh, right, yeah.
An American warship in 1967.
They
tried to blame it on the Egyptians, but they didn't manage to sink it, and they didn't manage to kill all the American sailors. They machine gunned them in the waters. So that was all covered up.
I was going to say that's on that website as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
And probably now it's becoming more and more clear that John F. Kennedy was not killed by a lone gunman called Lee Harvey Oswald. Right. So they cover up tons of stuff. And I've no doubt they're covering up 9/11.
They covered up about trying to kill what's his name?
Robert Kennedy.
Not Robert Kennedy, but they've been keeping it secret. And there's a guy they were going to kill. What's his name? Tucker Carlson spoke about it recently.
All right. Okay.
He did an interview with Joe Rogan.
He'll come to you.
About
Oswald.
Julian Assange.
All right.
They were going to off him.
Okay. Right. That's very interesting. But I think that we are, from a Catholic point of view, we're living in a very murky world, and it's not wise just to say. It's fine to say, well, the devil is the king of the world in a way, because that's what the Bible says, right? He's the Lord of the world. But you can actually explore who he's operating through or what he's operating through as well, to be more precise about things, why particular things are happening the way they are.
Revelation warns about a specific group. It doesn't warn about Muslims, it warns about the synagogue of Satan. That's the specific group that it names. And I think my concern is that maybe there's been kind of a pendulum swing, because you had Nazism where it swung one way.
Yeah.
And there was this. What I know of the Nazi countries and the Axis powers, the Allies, is they made an oath against communism.
Just regarding it's on the site, so the list of things I got here, it says the UK sent SAS team to Vietnam in 1962. They flew secret RAF missions to deliver arms and provided intelligence to the US. And it says UK governments lied to Parliament. They were not providing military advice to South Vietnam's brutal regime. And it says the Labour government secretly gave arms to US for use in Vietnam, stressing need for no publicity. He also connived with Washington to deceive UK public over its support for the US. And it says UK governments knew of atrocities against civilians but backed US war aims. And Whitehall only started to advocate a peaceful solution on US terms once the war became unwinnable. And the thing is, these documents, there's actually a place you can get them from, the declassified documents. So he actually he shows you where you can go to actually download it. And
we did the same thing in Nigeria. We supported the military regime of northern Nigeria against the Biafran breakaway regime. And we know the Biafran famine of the late 1960s, which is because there was basically a refusal to allow food in by the northern government. Right. And the British government totally supported that, while at the same time pretending it wasn't fueling arms to the Nigerian government in the north and allowing a mass starvation of the Biafrans. And of course Biafra ceased to exist because of this. But of course never officially said. Comes out much later.
Yeah.
Just a tiny question. Sorry. So, a lot of people have, like, when it comes to Catholicism, they had the issue when it comes to filioque, where, like, changing the first creed and then the second Nicene creed. What would you just, in the most concise manner, say to the viewers of what they should read and how they should come to an understanding of the Catholic side of the Holy Spirit comes from the Father and the Son?
Okay, I'd say the creed without the filioque didn't deny the filioque. The addition of and the Son is an addition, and it's basically a filling out of the faith. Now,